What if I told you that in the Middle Ages, people told time without clocks, not just with the sun, but with methods so bizarre, so forgotten, that they were erased from official records? Before we uncover this forbidden truth, hit subscribe, drop a comment with how you think they told time, and like this video, because history, no matter how hidden, always finds its voice. Imagine it is the year 1310. You live in a medieval village. There are no ticking clocks, no bells on your wrist, not even a calendar hanging on your wall. Time is not a number. It is a shadow stretching across stone, the faint burn of a candle, or the hollow sound of a church bell echoing through the fog. You wake when the rooster crows. You eat when the sun is high. You pray when the bells demand it. But behind this simple rhythm lies a dark truth. Time itself was a weapon, controlled by those in power. One of the earliest methods was the candle clock. Imagine a thick beeswax candle, carved with markings. Each line represented a slice of an hour. As the wax melted, the flame descended. In some monasteries, nails were pressed into the wax, and as the candle burned down, the nails clattered onto metal trays, ringing out like the strike of a clock. To us, it seems ingenious. But in the Middle Ages, such inventions were whispered about with suspicion, because whoever measured time outside the church risked being branded a heretic. Another strange method was the water clock, or clepsydra. In certain monasteries, jars were filled with water, dripping drop by drop into lower bowls. Priests watched as the levels rose, marking hours of prayer. But not all water clocks were holy. In the ruins of medieval villages, archaeologists found primitive bowls scorched black with fire, used by peasants who boiled water to control its drip speed. These weren't just tools, they were acts of defiance, because the church claimed ownership over time. Every bell, every hour belonged to them. To tell time independently was to rebel. Then there were the shadow clocks. Villagers carved crude sundials into the stone walls of churches and taverns. Some etched symbols into the very ground so they could track the length of a shadow across the dirt. But here's the forbidden twist. Many of these sundials were aligned not to the sun alone, but to the stars. Some scholars claim peasants used the rising of Sirius, or the constellation Orion, to mark the changing hours of night. This secret knowledge was condemned as dangerous, a gateway to astrology, even witchcraft. And then, the strangest of all time, told through the body. In monastery rules, it is written that monks should measure hours by the number of prayers whispered or psalms recited. In some abbeys, monks stretched their arms out in the dark, using the rhythm of their heartbeat to keep count. But one forgotten physician wrote in 1382 that peasants, too, used their own bodies, timing chores by how long it took to walk across fields, or how long bread took to rise by the fire. Time was breath, time was hunger, time was blood. But why did this matter? Because in the Middle Ages, controlling time was controlling life itself. The church divided the day into canonical hours: matins, before dawn; prime in the early morning; terce at mid-morning; sext at noon; vespers at sunset. Villagers lived by these bells. Work stopped, prayers began, meals were taken when the church declared. Even kings bowed to the bell towers. To question this order was to question God, yet fragments of suppressed documents hint at something darker. A Vatican manuscript, redacted in the 14th century, warned priests to guard against false hours being spread among the people. What were these false hours? Some claim they were alternate systems of timekeeping, methods passed down from pagan traditions, using stars and seasons, not bells. Others whispered that the Cathars and Templars used their own sacred hours, timed by hidden devices, now lost to history. If true, this would mean entire secret societies defied the church, not just in belief, but in the very ticking of time. And here's where the conspiracy deepens. Why do so many medieval household manuals speak of cooking by shadows or brewing by candle marks. Yet entire chapters of these texts vanish in later copies. Why were the designs of early water clocks destroyed, their makers silenced? In one case, a scholar in Paris who lectured on candle clocks was tried for heresy. His notes disappeared from university archives, his name erased. Why? Because to own time was to own power. And power was not for the people, but imagine the daily life this created. A peasant wakes in the gray dawn, not knowing the hour, only that the bells have not yet rung. He lights a candle marked with scratches, praying it lasts until his work is done. A monk kneels in the dark, counting his prayers, uncertain if he is too fast or too slow. A nobleman demands wine at terce, while his servants scramble to guess if the shadow is long enough. In the Middle Ages, time itself was uncertain, flexible, and terrifyingly fragile. And yet, whispers survive. A German poem mocks the church. Your bells ring, not for God, but for power. We follow the sun, while you follow lies. 10. Florence. City records show fines against bakers who sold bread outside of proper hours, proof that even markets ran on controlled time. And in England, sundials carved on church doors, known as mass dials, still remain, their lines worn but clear. They are ghosts of a world where people fought to measure life for themselves. So what if it's all true? What if medieval timekeeping wasn't quaint or primitive, but dangerous? What if the story of clocks is not about invention, but about control? What if the reason so many documents were redacted, so many scholars silenced, was because time itself was forbidden knowledge? Think of what that means. Every second you live today is counted by a system, calendars, hours, minutes, inherited not from nature, but from power. The medieval peasant looking at the stars may have been freer than we are now, bound by our devices. History may not be what you were told. It never is. So I'll leave you with this. If time itself could be rewritten once, could it happen again? Subscribe now, because truth, no matter how long it's buried, always finds its voice.